Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. I've decided to throw this over the board of what moved our cheese. Its practices on adapting to change. And it's an analogy from the book written by Spencer Johnson. I'm sure you know it, Who Moved My Cheese. Have you read it?
No.
Some of you have. It's quite an interesting book. You might as well read it. It's about two mice called Sniff and Scurry, and two little people, him and Haw, in the maze of life looking for cheese, which eventually brings them happiness. So, cheese in the book is a metaphor of what you want to have. In other words, your vision, your mission, your goals, and what you want to do. And the maze is the place where you look for it. It could be your mission, your study, it could be somewhere in the port, it doesn't matter, wherever. But the problem is that the cheese keeps moving. Almost every single year. There's something different and something new that's going on. So in the story of Who Moved My Cheese, the characters are faced bluntly by the unexpected change that they experience. And then what do they do and how do they resolve it? Hem is one of the little people, and he used to go back to the place where there was always cheese. And then one day there was no cheese left, so he went back to the station every time, although it was empty. And he believed that while he waited, it eventually would return. So he resisted changing his routine. Even he did not get any benefits from that because there was no cheese. And then Haw wrote on the walls of the maze all sorts of messages for him so that he can realize what is going on. So in his journey, I haven't written here, that Haw was just then the one that was, let's say, giving advice to these other little people. Okay, organizations resist change due to the perception. I think the important word in that sentence is the perception that change threatens them. It's only perception. Remember, the world evolves around perceptions, not facts. And that's unfortunately true. They resist to change even when the current operations are suboptimal. You don't realize it, and you don't know it, and you don't accept it, and you put your head in the sand like an ostrich. And they also miss out on the valuable opportunities for innovation and improvement through this. CSO's cheese is to give a seafarer a Bible in his own language, and then we give him the life in Christ. That's our motto, that's what we do, that's how we work. Okay, so let's see what happened. I've just chosen 3 topics to indicate the change and the changes that took place and the cheese that moved throughout the years. Ship visits back then, it was relatively less regulations and security. We could go onto a ship with a youth group from the church or from the school or whatever and whoever. There was just any complications in that. There was a longer turnaround time. The vessels were longer at dock than these days. The crew were larger. And interesting, when I started with my ship visiting 36 years ago, when it was a Russian ship, there were only Russians on board. That's it. And that made it much more easier for them because it's their own culture, their own language, their own beliefs, their own. I'll say something a little bit later then. You had longer contact time with the crew. It frequently happened that there are 10, 15 people in the mess room. And you could talk to the crew, which is no longer. Ship visits now, high security with permit complications. In Saldanha, it took me 3 years to get a permit for Andre to go into the port. I had to fly down from Joburg, drive to Saldanha, speak to people, and it just doesn't happen. And it's a totally over-regulated industry at the moment. We've been struggling in Cape Town to get access to like container terminal. So you start with John. John sends you to Jim. And then Jim sends you to Sam. And Sam says you must go and see that beautiful lady Mary. And then Mary says, oh, no, you have to go to John. I've been numerous times in that port, flying down, whatever, it just doesn't happen. And you all know in South Africa, every now and then there's a new Indian, a boss, not like in race. It's some saying. And then all the little Indians must dance. And it happened that every 3 months there's a new person in charge. And every time a new person is in charge, then he changes the regulations. And you have to just go on and on and on. About the permit complications, do you know in Saldanha, Marcelino and Andre have to renew their permits every single month. Can you believe it? Even though South Africa has signed the LC, it feels to me as if it's got no use for us anymore. Okay, it's a much shorter turnaround time. The office said in Richards Bay, for instance, the freight vessels, 1 day, then they're gone. There's less crew. They are frequently overworked. We heard yesterday somebody said they're tired. They're just tired. They just want to sleep. The mess rooms are less visited because of the different sort of, let's say, languages that are on the vessel. They can't communicate with each other. They don't have the same religion. They don't have the same culture, not the same language. So what does it do? He goes to his cabin instead of being wherever or in the bedroom. So they get very lonely, and we all know from the welfare that they get depressed very, very, very easily because they are lonely people. Even now, sometimes they can only do a gangway visit, a real hit and run. It's like putting a little band-aid plaster on a wound. That's all. You have to speak to them there. You can't go in. Chris told me sometimes they have to meet in some office on the ship. And then this guy is under stress because it's not an informal environment. It's a formal environment. How do you speak to somebody about the love of Christ in such a formal environment? Okay, adapting to change, it has to be high impact conversations. Personal conversations. There's no time for group conversations anymore, and purpose-driven conversations. So it's wow, and it's klaar. As we say in Afrikaans. Okay, next one is the literature. Then, I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago, Bibles were generously available. Bible Society, wherever and whoever, and CNA, PNA, and everybody had Bibles. It was eagerly accepted at that stage because there were no alternatives 20 years, 30 years ago for a printed Bible. Okay, and we could do large distribution of Bibles. About 20, 30 years ago, we could do 12,000 pieces of literature per year in the 5 ports of South Africa. Now, Bibles are available online. Bible studies are available online. There's less need for printed Bibles. There's a lot of Bible apps. But still, there are some of the seafarers who would like to have a printed version. I can't read on a Kindle. Can you read on a Kindle? I prefer a book because if I go to bed and that Kindle falls on your face, just blue eyes like this, whereas a book is just much, much easier. Okay, so how do we adapt to change? I have to assist the seafarers with online Bibles. We do smaller printed New Testaments, pocket versions. It's lighter also to take home and all that. And then obviously high impact modern literature with graphics, color, things like that. And then visually stimulating material. As you can see, this is what Wimpie frequently uses. It explains the whole the gospel, thanks. The whole gospel in one, you can see it immediately. Black is sin, cross. Okay, so there you are. That's what I mean by high impact and visual things that we have to use. Okay, fundraising. Do you remember the time when the postman came with his red bicycle and put the mail in the mailbox? That was 30 years ago. It costed 10 cents for a postage stamp. Cedric, you said yesterday, where Cedric? You said yesterday, your boss said, what's it in real money? It's less than 1 pence. Okay, in real money. That's what it costed at that stage. It was cost effective. The return normally 20 years ago was 2% on a cold canvas. In other words, if you send 100 letters out, you get 2 responses, and that was very, very, very high. A 2% return on a cold canvas at that stage was extremely high. Now, unfortunately, it's expensive. Direct mail is expensive. At this stage, to send a letter out is $680 per letter. That excludes the printing cost. I remember it was 1 pence. Now, how much is 680 plus? It's quite a lot of money. And if you stay in South Africa, you know that the post office is non-existent. It just doesn't work anymore. If you send out 100 letters today, you may be happy or you may be lucky that one person gets his letter. So it's a total waste of time and money. Online fundraising is not always very effective. The studies, I've just read a study now, you're sending cold canvas out with email, your response rate is 0.16%. Remember, 30 years ago it was 2%. It's 0.16%. Not even one person if you send out 100 emails. So it's just absolutely different. And interestingly enough, the real clever people say that COVID brought electronic fundraising to the front for 10 years because everything was closed and down. And then obviously South Africa's economy is down 40%, unemployment. The moment when interest rates go down, your fundraising gets knocked. Unfortunately, it happens like that. Adapting to change, obviously social media now, use it, almost abuse it. You heard what Jason said, link, like, share, that's the only way you can do it. And then important is, what we do is alertness to rapid change in the donor environment. If there's a new app or a new thing, especially the young people, they go for it. Just go for it. That's what we do. We on what's it, Instagram? I was born before computers. It's Instagram and everything. You just have to do it. Because that's where your donor base are. And that's what we do. High impact messages, very, very important. Just for interest sake, how long do you think does a person click on your website before he leaves it if it's not interesting? 5 seconds. Yeah. Max 10 seconds. They have 5 to 10 seconds to make an impact for somebody to read on or click on the link. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lost you. That's the implication of that. And then obviously in today's time, what we have, our donor base with electronic contact details. You cannot use snail mail anymore, so we make use of the social media, email, WhatsApp. Especially the elder people, they like their WhatsApps because they don't really very good with Facebook and all these things. So, back to the story. Who told him it's safer to search in the maze than to remain in the cheeseless situation? And that's important because I think due to all the circumstances, especially in our country, sometimes we are in this cheeseless situation. So, what did Hall wrote on the wall in the maze? He said to him, if you do not change, you can become extinct. And it's very, it can happen very, very quickly. You can lose everything and all your donors in a few days if you do not adapt to that change. The quicker, all said, you let go of the old cheese, the sooner you will find the new cheese. Old beliefs do not lead you to new cheese, and the more important the cheese is to you, the more you want to hold onto it. And that was Hall's little nuts that he left to him. Okay, embracing change becomes the key to unlocking long-term success. You need a dynamic culture. Adaptability encourages NN. You can read it there. It's extremely important because the handwriting is on the wall for NGOs and us, the majority of us. The handwriting is on the wall. We have to do something. And my suggestion is, our experience is, you just have to deal with the moved cheese. How are we going to do that? There's a few ideas. Change is inventable, whatever. Prepared for this. Okay, somebody just tell me that word. Inevitable, of course. I knew it. I was just testing you. I do that. Don't control the change. Control how you react to it. You have to either resist or you have to adapt. You have to be willing to let go of the old, embrace the new. Old cheese becomes stale. En maak sulke green stuff. Old cheese. It can be difficult to let go. I know, but you have to. Be proactive in your search for new cheese. Don't wait for the changes to happen around you. But go and look for new opportunities before everything changes. And you have to take risk outside your comfort zone. And then, well, enjoy the ride. It's an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.